Hello folks, hopefully you're having a good day. I know I am. Well, I am 14 essays into a 20 essay marking cycle, so I guess we're getting there eventually. Hope you're all doing well. If you like what I do, please subscribe to the channel, helps me out. And also, if you want to help me out, then head on over to Composite Games down below, and any hobby stuff you're getting over the next few weeks, make sure you get it through them. Use the promo code Northern Exile down below to get yourself 5% off your order at checkout. It helps out the channel because they're the ones who supply us with our models. They're the ones who make sure that we have models for the prize draws. And we love to help out smaller businesses here in the UK, especially with how much Games Workshop likes to have them over a barrel sometimes. Anyway, this video is not going to be controversial at all because today we're discussing what your 40k army choice says about you. First thing I want to get out the way very quickly is that, you know, sometimes this is, well, not sometimes, all of the time, this is opinion based. This is a video meant to elicit a few laughs, and to be honest with you, this isn't an all-encompassing list. You know, there are some things I'm missing, there are some things that maybe I'm wrong about. Let me know in the comment section down below. But whenever you tell me you collect one of these armies, I immediately think one of these 3 or 4 things, alright? Each and every single army has 3 or 4 talking points, and we're going to go over them one by one. This might be a long video, might be a short video, depends how quickly I can get through it. So, in alphabetical order, number 1. And by the way, I was going to do art with this, but then time constraints meant I couldn't. So it just is what it is. It's an audio file, you know, go on it. Do a podcast version of it, it's fine. Listen to me as you're cooking, or listen to me as you're doing any painting. That's the best thing to do. Anyway, number 1. Adeptus Custodies. What does your army say about you? Well, 1. You are a well-meaning, lovable gym bro. In my opinion, literally, you are the muscled, toned guy who everybody likes. You know, you were the Chad, or not even the Chad. You were one of the popular kids in school who's discovered Warhammer, and you think Warhammer's awesome. And good on you. You're right, and welcome to the hobby. Number 2, you like the colour gold. Absolutely obvious. Number 3, you are a little insecure, as you are not brave enough to stand up to the nonsense memes Grey Knights have to put up with. What do I mean by that? Well, Grey Knights have been kind of ruined, because the 4th point I'm going to make there is, you wanted a faction of Grey Knights that Matt Ward didn't ruin. Yeah, you didn't want to stand up to the heat that us Grey Knights players have to stand up to, and so you sidestepped that, and you got yourself a better version of the Grey Knights. Well done for you, and you're guaranteeing that you're always going to be part of the meta, because Custodies, by law, can't be bad on the tabletop. They're Custodies. Alright, cool. Moving on. Adeptus Mechanicus. Number 1. You're a scientist. I'm not kidding. The amount of scientists I know who love AdMech is ridiculous. Right? And you have the arrogance that comes with that. All scientists I know are arrogant in some kind of way. It can be arrogant in their area of expertise. It can be arrogant in thinking that they know best in terms of logical solutions to things. That is why you love the AdMech. The AdMech are very, very similar to the way you look at the world, right? Number 2, you're socially awkward, for the most part, and identify with the annoyance the Mechanicus finds in others with emotions. There are a lot of people that I know who do AdMech who have stunted emotional growth, who aren't very good socially, things like that. And they find a lot of wiggle room with the AdMech because they're exactly the same. And number 3, you like being deceptively strong. You think there are parts to your personality that are a lot stronger than what people give you credit for. And so you gelled onto the AdMech and you went with it. Really, this video is also about how good Games Workshop are at reading their audience. If you don't think they are good at reading the audience, let's look at the Red Scorpions Space Marine chapter for just a minute, please. Just a minute. What are the characteristics of the Red Scorpion Space Marine chapter? Okay. They're elitist, they're aloof, they have all of the mod cons, they have all of the best equipment, they have the most expensive armory that money can buy, right? They are some of the best dudes out there, and they are obsessed with purity, and they look down on nearly everybody around them who can't afford the same things they can afford. Where can you buy Red Scorpions exclusively? Forge World. Now that's sink in for a minute. Yeah, they know their audience. Next up, Blood Angels. Number 1. You really want to be the hero of the setting. I mean, really. It's almost sickeningly so. Number 2. You have a strange thing for vampires and the colour red. That goes without saying. Number 3. You really like the Castlevania series on Netflix. You're an emo, but you're not tragically dedicated to it like the Raven Guard are. You know, most Blood Angels I know, most Blood Angels players, they will talk to you about lore for a bit, but they always get a little bit emotional about it, don't they? They always start just going, oh, Sanguinius, he died, he's Sanguinius. Oh, shut up. I mean, it gets to a point in the Horus Heresy series where a Sanguinius chapter comes along and I'm like, yes, it's very tragic, moving on. Moving on. Yes, we know he's going to die, moving on, you know. I mean, I don't know. I think the Siege of Terror books are literally Sanguinius. That's all they're about. Sanguinius. And even, like, there's a really cool flashback chapter in one of the current... I think it's one of the last ones. I think it's Echoes of Eternity. But, yeah, it basically, like, there's a huge chapter that is just a flashback to how the Blood Angels were back in the day and how they are now, and Sanguinius, things like that. So essentially, Siege of Terror books are about Sanguinius for the most part, right? Especially when they're on Terra, which they should be, you know, he's the kind of the main character. But, oh my god, it gets tiresome. And if you listen to Blood Angels players, they're very, very similar. Like, oh my god, you know, we saved the Imperium, do you know that? Yeah, I know, it's fine. Moving on, Dark Angels. What are you like if you're a Dark Angels player? Well, number 1, you are the tired older brother of your friend group all the time. You're looking around everybody and going, oh, for God's sake, you know, what are we doing? Number 2, you think those around you are doing things wrong and need a stern talking to. And that carries both positive and negative connotations. A lot of teachers I know and fathers are Dark Angels players. Don't know why that is. Number 3, you like knights, but you're not some sort of vampire-loving pansy. You know, you're all there. You like your knights. You like being, you know, one of the heroes of the setting. But you also like having a dark, more secretive side, and you're not that into vampires. So you go along with Dark Angels. Good for you. I hope you enjoy The Lion is Returning. It's not going very well, is it? Anyway, moving on. Dark Eldar. Number 1. You are one of those girly, straight metalhead guys. You know the ones I mean. You know the ones I mean. The girly, straight metalhead guys. They're straight, but they've got long fingers. For some reason, they've got long fingers. I don't know why, right? Long fingers, long hair, very feminine looking, you know. They're very nice, very lovely to be around, but fuck me, you're a Dark Eldar player. That's what you are. Almost all Dark Eldar players I've known have been graduated emos. The guys who used to be emos, but they never got out of rock. They still love heavy metal music. They've graduated to heavy metal music, and now they're wearing, you know, they've still got the long hair, the flowing, you know, everything's nice and pristine about them. So some of them wear black fingernails, you know, but they're Dark Eldar players. Number 2. You're into BDSM things, even if you don't practice it yourself. So you like looking at it, you like talking about it, you like the aesthetic of armor that has BDSM things attached to it, but you don't really practice it yourself. You're not a deviant like some other people we're going to get into a bit later on. And number 3, you have a deviant side, and you wanted to play the bad guy with no apologies. There's nothing noble about the Dark Eldar. You literally went balls to the wall, fuck right on. This is me. I'm being bad and shitty, and I don't make any apologies. But at least with me, you know what you're getting. Well done to you. Next, Death Guard. Okay, you are a graduated dude with the mental age of a 5-year-old. You like icky things. You like building things that are icky and oozy and snotty and things like that. You love that kind of stuff, right? Number 2, you have a weird obsessive respect for Stan Winston. If you don't know who that is, he was one of the main modelling guys in all of the movies, if you know what I mean. He did things like, well, Wasn't he? Didn't he do Jurassic Park and most other monster movies? He did Alien, Jurassic Park. I think he did The Thing. Right? You're well into making creatures, but you also like Space Marines, and you combine the two into being evil Death Guard. Right? Number 3. You started the hobby in 8th edition and love being jolly. Right? I'm not even going to go into the mess that is Mortarian, but you started in 8th edition and you love being jolly. You're one of these jolly men who loves to come in with your big buggers and your Land Raiders with a vagina on the front of it, and you come in and you put it down and you go, look at me with my vagina Land Raider, and everyone goes, yeah, Dave, yeah, you say the same thing every week, man. What's wrong with you? Anyway, moving on. Eldar, number 1. Eldar, you cry a lot. Don't know why. Most Eldar players I come across are all about the tragedy. And I knew a girl who got into the hobby, and she studied ancient Greek theatre, and you can guess the faction she started with was Eldar, and she ended up with harlequins. We'll get into that later on. Number 2, you have a thing for elves, and you have a dash of weeaboo in you. Why do you have a dash of weeaboo in you? Have you seen the samurai aesthetic of some of the Eldar models, right? You have a serious thing for elves in all places. Pancreas No Work will tell you all about it if you go and watch his channel. Number 3, you think you know better than others and are comfortable being on the way out as long as it's on your own terms. And you also really, really resent the hentai of you sleeping with Monkai with a passion. You don't like it. Eldar don't shag humans. That's how it is. And you will be the first to tell us that whenever somebody brings up Rabute Gilliman and his hot Eldar girlfriend. Moving on. Emperor's Children. Here's the controversial one. Alright? Emperor's Children. Number 1. You are trans. Or are coming to grips with your sexuality and the fact that it's not as straight as you once thought it was. Now, let me explain that. Before you all jump on me, let me explain that. Nearly every Emperor's Children player I've ever known has either been gay or trans. I don't know why. I don't know why. And admittedly, I've only known 7 or 8 of them, but they've all been on that in that area, in the LGBTQI, whatever it is, scene. They've all been a part of that, right? And loads of them have been trans. I'm talking a lot, you know? There was a really, really, really cool girl who used to come into my games workshop who was big in Emperor's Children. Like she loved them all the time. I played her quite a lot. She was awesome. But like you could definitely tell that she was either gay or she had a deal going on. You know what I mean? You could just tell she had a deal going on. She was figuring out who she was, but she loved her Emperor's Children. She absolutely loved them. Not saying she was trans. I don't know what her deal was, but she absolutely was stonking for Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children. And you know what? If you want to express yourself and your sexuality through your Warhammer, fine. As long as you're not making it all about that, and you're not like trying to bring your preferences onto other people. You know, because people don't ask for that in the hobby. We don't want politics here. But you be yourself. And if your Warhammer army is a representation of that, have fun with it, right? And that's what people do with Emperor's Children. Emperor's Children are the army that people go to if they want to represent themselves and their sexualities in the hobby, but they respect the hobby, right? Instead of just going and making pink rainbow space marines, they go, do you know what? These Emperor's Children guys are fabulous. Let me get some of that shit, right? And they go in there and they make themselves Emperor's Children. Lovely stuff. Number 2, you really like pissing people off by trolling them. The trolliest players I've ever come across are Emperor's Children players. They just love poking you. Am I annoying you yet? Am I annoying you yet? Am I annoying you yet? Am I annoying you? Yeah, you are. Yes. Stop with the demonettes, please. Stop running away. Come back here, right? Number 3, you are a deceptively simple person. If it feels good, continue, right? That's literally who you are. If you're doing something that makes you feel good, you just continue doing it. That feels good, right? As long as you're not touching yourself in public, we're going to get along just fine. Moving on. Grey Knights. Oh god, I'm going to have to take a sip of tea here. Grey Knights. Here we go. My poor boys. Right, number 1. You are angry that people define you by something that happened years ago. You know what I mean, Matt Ward. You know what I mean. You know, there was a travesty of law back in the day. Yes, we killed Sisters of Battle and bathed in their blood and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that was us, yes. Sorry about that, right? Sorry about the broken Demon Hunters Codex, yes, we're sorry about that. I didn't write it, and it was 20-odd years ago, but hey, who knows, whatever. Maybe you're still holding a grudge for some bizarre reason, even though you weren't there. I don't know, what's going on? Number 2, you feel you don't ever get the respect you deserve. And this is true. All Grey Knight players feel the same. No matter how nice we are, we resent you because you don't give us the respect we deserve. We're the best Space Marines, damn it. Custodies aren't Space Marines, and we're the best Space Marines. But you know what we are also? We are the Avatar of Cain of Space Marines. We're the Space Marines that are used to be beaten just so you can prove how shit hot and tough your most recent character is. Alright? Number 3, you have a fetish for 2 things mainly, right? 1, being a knight, and 2, for being an extra special snowflake who you think is better than everybody else. Just saying. Just saying, I know who I am, right? I know who I am. I like knights, and I like being a special snowflake. That's it, that's me. You know, I love Grey Knights. Continuing on. Harlequins. Number 1, Harlequins. You are a very good painter. A very good painter. Number 2, seriously, you're so good you like to dunk on others, especially other Eldar players. And number 3, you're not in this to win, you're here to annoy and style over others. Style means more than result for you if you're a Harlequin player. I've come across this a lot. Harlequin players are probably even more trolley than Emperor's Children players, but only by a slight amount. Alright? Alright. Imperial Fists. Number 1, you are the human equivalent of a golden retriever. Number 2, you are comfortable enough with your own sexuality to wear yellow, despite knowing how fucking ridiculous it makes you look. And number 3, you are stoic and chill. Until you're not. Number 4. Sorry, not number 4. Next, Imperial Guard. Number 1. You are a historical nerd. Especially for the World Wars. I mean, I've known so many Lindy Beige types who love Imperial Guard. It's bonkers. Number 2. You love being the underdog and being different to others. You like painting big, blocky things. By blocky things, you know what I mean. Tanks, mechs, and copious amounts of them. Number 3, you really fucking hate painting human faces. You see human melted faces in your dreams. You hate them. You hate painting them. Moving on. By the way, not all people will exemplify all of these, but you will definitely recognise yourself in one of them, I bet. One very good example, the Leagues of Votan. Number 1, you are a metagamer who needs to have the newest, shiniest thing. Number 2, you've been waiting for Space Wars for decades and your moment is being ruined by meme lords and meta chasers. You know you are. Number 3, you play video games about space dwarves mining things in space a lot. Moving on. Necrons. You're a mum who got into the hobby because your son loves it. That may seem strange, but I know there's a few of you out there who are listening to this right now going, oh my god, it's me! Right? Number 2. You are a beginner level painter destined to be a fantastic painter when it comes to metallics. Number 3. You have a serious love for 2 things. 1, the Terminator series, and 2, Ancient Egypt. And here you are, collecting Necrons. Who would have thought? Next, Orcs. You have the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. Sometimes I don't realise how harsh these are when I write them down. But Orcs, if you're an Orc player, you have the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. But you know what? I know there are a lot of Orc players sipping their cups of tea with a little finger pointing out going, fair enough, and taking a sip, right? I know that's how it's going. Number 2, you want everybody around you to just blow stuff up and have a good time. You're not really here to win. And number 3, you are the loud, jolly one of your friends when you come out of your shell. Sometimes you can be a bit shy at the start, but once you're out of your shell, you tend to war a lot and be rambunctious and have fun, right? Exactly who you are. And you're probably a dad too. Next, Raven Guard. Raven Guard. Number 1, you listen to Paramore. You listen to Paramore a lot. And you like crying about relationships. Number 2, seriously, you're that much of an emo and you didn't have the balls to bite the bullet and just do Kakaradons like a man of culture, right? Number 3, you love stealth sniping and probably play a lot of Ghost Recon in your spare time. Next, Space Wolves. Oh god, time for another sip of tea. A lot of you know where I'm going to go with this, but we'll see. Space Wolves. You are allergic to losing. Not in gaming, but in a story sense. Your ego and masculinity is weirdly fragile. If your faction ever lost cleanly, you'd probably cave in and collect Custodies instead. Number 2, you have a serious fetish for Vikings, but your historical understanding of them is probably limited to the cast of Vikings the TV show, and you've forgotten most of their names anyway. But axes are cool, I guess. You like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Number 3, you have a serious need to tell others how to enjoy things in the correct way. And the correct way is by being a Viking in space who likes wolves. Moving on. Sisters of Battle. Number 1. If you're a Sisters of Battle player, number 1, you love Grey Knights, but you also love giant big titties. So I wrote this days ago, so if I'm not laughing at my own jokes, I'm more sort of reading this like this is somebody else who's written this. Number 2, I must have been in a bad mood. Number 2, you have a thing for nuns and an unhealthy love for the Emperor. Number 3, you really like elegant and brand new model kits and were probably waiting for decades to finally be able to play the army you wanted to, Sisters of Battle. They were just always too expensive, and now you're having your time in the sun, goddammit. Next, Thousand Suns. Number 1, as a Thousand Suns player, you really want the necrons to knock that shit off and stay in their own lane. Number 2, you are a book nerd and probably love some Harry Potter. Number 3, you believe you have the most misunderstood Primarch and others either haven't read his story yet or are just being ignorant on purpose. In which way, you are the most Thousand Suns player to ever Thousand Sun ever. Next, Tyranids. The next controversial one, Tyranids. If you are a Tyranid player, number 1, you are a woman. And you're probably at least passingly hot. Number 2, you put up with a lot of shit from other gamers in the hobby, but you have a lot of love for the alien movies, creatures, and are secretly a better painter than the boyfriend or ex-boyfriend who got you into the hobby in the first place. Number 3, you were tempted by Sisters of Battle, but either started the hobby when they were metal models and really expensive, or didn't want to be typical. The ironic thing is, you ended up being typical by accident, as all of you hot ladies who were in the hobby had exactly the same fucking idea and went and bought your first Tyranid box set. Moving on, Ultramarines. When you play in Dungeons and Dragons, you are almost always that annoying guy who has to be the main character of the group, and you know what I mean by that. Every storyline centered around you, every event is centered around you, you can't let anybody on the table have their own moment, it has to be about you a lot, alright? Yeah, cool. Number 2, you really get sucked in, or you really got sucked in, by the Games Workshop marketing machine, or you started the hobby in 4th edition onwards and associated Ultramarine colours with your childhood's innocent years. I know a lot of Ultramarines players who defend them because of this, because Ultramarines represent who they were when they were kids. Number 3, you are secretly ashamed of how much airtime your faction gets, and you wish Games Workshop would just back off so others can stop ridiculing you for being the teacher's pet of the hobby so mercilessly. And now we come to our final one. World Eaters. Number 1, you love the Betrayer book, and the fall of Khan so much, and you never let it go. Number 2, you secretly admit to yourself in your darkest moments that you had low-key the weakest Primarch of them all, at least from a tactical standpoint. Bear with me, okay? From a tactical standpoint, Angron's the worst Primarch. He's a great fighter, sure, but he wants to fight on his own. He doesn't want any of his sons anywhere near him, and he could have died and should have died several million times before we even get to the fact that he becomes a demon, right? He's tactically the weakest Primarch. If you're going into a war zone, you can use Angron for one thing: killing what's in front of him. Anything else he can't do. Literally can't do, right? Or he won't do it because he doesn't want to do it. Number 3, you own 12,827 pots of blood for the Blood God paint, and you're proud of it. All right. Those are what I have right now. If you know any other factions that you want me to cover, I will go over them. I haven't done an exhaustive list of all of them on here, just most of the 40k factions that we know of. Have I been harsh? Have I been mental? Have I just, have I just come across the really bad people in the hobby? I don't know. But I've tried to be fair in this and give everybody their airtime. What do you think? Am I a mentalist? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more hobby nightmares, and we have some doozies tomorrow, dude. It's going to be awesome. Love you a long time. Speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.